would like to introduce Krishna Murari Goswami Prabhu, who is a Nandagaon Vasi, Nandagram in Sanskrit, Nandagrama, Nandagaon. And he's very kindly going to assist us in entering into the Braj universe. It's okay. Getting a little wild. So perhaps you would like to say some things, some practical things in general. Yes.
Yes. Radhe. Radhe Shyam. Radhe. Radhe Shyam. Radhe Shyam. So from the side of our Govardhan Retreat Center and from the side of Brajabasis and from the side of Vrindavan, I would like to welcome all of you who have taken this long journey to come from different corners of the world and come here and take shelter under the lotus feet of Sri Giriraj. It is said by Nagari Das, one of the saint who lived in Vrindavan. Before becoming a saint, he was a king in the area of Rajasthan, and he became a sadhu. And in the end part of his life, he said one thing. He said, Nagariya Brajabas Kripa Phal Paiye. That, O Nagari Das, the momentary residence, even the momentary residence in Vrindavan is received by Kripa. Kripa Phal Paiye. It's the fruits of the Kripa which you have received. That's why you come to Vrindavan. And when one person who has received this Kripa and come to this holy Vrindavan Dham, but things are so strong that we again have to take a journey, which is going from this dusty Vrindavan to that Vrindavan, which is the kingdom of the Lord. There is dust, but the foolish mind thinks so many things. Actually, Sachinandan Maharaj says one very, very nice thing. He says, there are two doors to Vrindavan. There are two doors to Vrindavan. If you take the first door to Vrindavan, you come to a place somewhere in North India where nobody obeys the traffic rules, where everything has more than enough sugar and so many other things. So this is the first door to Vrindavan. If you take that door, you come to that place somewhere in North India. But if you take the second door of Shraddha and surrender, of faith and surrender, Shraddha and Sharanagati, you come to the kingdom of the Lord, where everything is as present as Krishna himself. It is said in Brajabhasha, Vrindavan barsat rahe, prem ahir nish bhor. In Vrindavan, the love is always raining. It's in the air. It's always raining. Why it is raining? In the Srimad Bhagavatam's Mahatmya mentioned in Padma Puran, it is said that Vrindavanasya Sanyogat, just by the association of Sri Vrindavan Dham, Vrindavanasya Sanyogat Punastam Turani Nava, that the bhakti of a person gets renourished. So many different connections to the bhakti is received. The Bhakti Devi is increasing in the heart of a person, because Dhanyam Vrindavanam Tena, that all glories to Sri Vrindavan Dham, Bhaktir Natyati Yatracha, where the Bhakti Devi herself dances out of joy. Why Bhakti Devi is dancing in Vrindavan? because of presence of Krishna, because he is eternally here. It is mentioned by Krishna himself. Krishna says, Vrindavanam paritajya padamekam na gacchami. I don't even go even one single step outside Vrindavan. Whatever the wise may say, or whatever the intellectuals may lecture, but I shall always remain in my Gokul Bhava, Krishna is mentioning. And whatever the different personalities may express, I shall always be present under the Tamal and Kadamba trees, near the bluish waters of Yamuna, under the shade of Giriraj. I shall always be present. I shall not leave Braj. This is from the Shastra. From the side of Brajabasis, in Brajabhasha it is mentioned the small pastime. When Krishna and Balaram were going with Akrura towards Mathura, so they walked on the chariot and they were leaving. And Madhumangal, the chubby friend of Krishna, who is always liking to eat and making joke. So he goes to Krishna and he stops him and he catches the hand of Krishna like this. And he tries to ask him something. And he asks Krishna, are you really leaving us? Are you really leaving us? Then Krishna said one very beautiful statement. He said, Brajabasi Vrindavan Sada, that these Brajabasis and this land of Vrindavan, Mere Jeevan Pran, these are my life force. Inhe na bisaraho, that I will never leave them away. I will never go away from them. Moi Nanda Baba ki yan. I swear this in the name of my father Nanda Baba, that I will never leave them. I will never leave them. So this is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to connect to that rasa which is reigning in the air. And also it is said that the real holy place lives in the hearts of those, it's mentioned in Padma Purana statement. The real holy place lives in the hearts of those who really live there. So throughout this beautiful retreat, we are going to hear about different sadhus who have lived in Vrindavan, who live in Vrindavan, and who have felt that great touching of Vrindavan, that great mood of Vrindavan. And a sadhu named Rasik Pritam Das, who lived in the area of Giriraj, he has given a practical advice to all those who come to the area of Giriraj and who stay here. And he has expressed this in a beautiful song. And he sings, Govardhan ki raiye tarati, Govardhan ki raiye. That, oh my friends, come and stay in the valley of Giriraj. Govardhan ki rahiye tarati. Nit pratimadana Gopal Lal ke. When you live in the area of Giriraj, what you should do? You should take the shelter of lotus feet of Sri Madan Gopal, who is always roaming here. Charana Kamala Chitalaiya Tarati, Govardhana ki raiye. When you take shelter of those lotus feet, what will happen? He expresses. Tana pulakita braja raj mein lotata. You will feel such happiness that you will like to roll down in the dust. Govinda kunda mein hai tarati. Then you can take bath in Sri Govinda Kunda. Rasika pitama, Rasika pitama hita chit ki baatein. At that time, whatever you feel in your heart, Girdhari juso kahiye tarati. Just express whatever you feel in your heart to Sri Girdhari, the one who lifts Sri Giriraj. And it's a wonderful opportunity for all of us to be part of this beautiful retreat. And it is said that people can change people, situations can change people, time can change people, places can change people. And Vrindavan is such a place which can really change people. It is so miraculous that I think we all should look for those miracles to happen here, because this is the land of miracles and they will happen. And thank you very much. Have a nice retreat. Radhe Shyam. Bolo Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai. Bolo Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai. Bolo Giriraj Maharaj ki Jai.
Well, considering these points, I suggest that what we do now is each of us in our own ways to kind of present ourselves to Giriraj. We can, for just a short time, a few minutes, you can face Giriraj, you can stand, you can sit, you can whatever. And as I mentioned yesterday, we may want to make a sankalpa, some resolve that for this retreat, in the course of this retreat, by the end of this retreat, or some sort of concept like that, I will X, Y, or Z, and it may include I will not Q, R, and S. Things I will not do. We will, as we also discussed yesterday, leave our cares behind. We may leave whatever is not conducive for our spiritual lives, set it aside, let it go, and let ourselves be in the shelter of the Lord. Giriraj is he is Haridasa Varya, and you may want to appeal or present yourself to him as the best of devotees, because we want to receive the grace, the mercy of Krishna, of the Lord. But how to do that? Through his devotees. And if Giriraj is the best of devotees, it just might be a very good thing to do, to approach this best of devotees, to ask for his blessings. Okay? So I will stop speaking and leave to you. You want to reflect and present yourself to Girirajaya, Shri Govardhana, Namine, Ashesha Klesha, Nashaya, Aramananda, Daine, Namaste Girirajaya, Shri Govardhana Namine, Ashesha Klesha Nashaya, Paramananda Daine. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the King of Hills, whose name is Govardhan. He destroys unlimited miseries and bestows the highest bliss. There's another pranam mantra. Namo Vrindavanankaya Tuvyam Golokamali Purna Brahma Tapatraya Namo Govardhanaya Cha. Obeisance to you, O Govardhan, who is our support and nourishment. Obeisance to you, the crown of Goloka, and obeisance to you, O umbrella of Purna Brahma Shri Krishna. It's nice to think of Govardhan as Krishna's umbrella, an umbrella which protects from Indra's wrathful rain and also protects all the Rajavasis. And because Giriraj is such a very special devotee, we worship him. And I want to share with you some points that His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj has made in a very sweet article called The Mountain of Love, or Why We Worship Govardhan. He explains why we worship Govardhan because he identifies two sorts of persons who would think that worshiping Govardhan is a really, really crazy thing to do. And we may know some people, we might have friends, we might have relatives, we may know people who think exactly like that. What? You're worshiping a hill, and it's just a kind of, to our view, perhaps because we came in the wrong door into the, it appears like a rather small hill, long and narrow, unusual certainly in that respect, with some trees around it, a lot of rocks. What's so special about this hill? So he's explaining there's two types of people who in particular, or two types of philosophies which would make one think that the sort of worship that Krishna Bhaktas perform, specifically to Govardhan, but more broadly, is more or less mad. One of these two groups are the extreme dualists, and those are persons who believe, yes, there is God, and yes, unfortunately, there is this world, and there is a massive abyss or a gap in between the two. There's no connection between the two. Religions in general are expressive of different ways of making connection, but essentially they are completely separate, and this world is essentially condemned, and therefore to worship anything of this world is foolish at best and benighted idolatry at worst. Yeah. Okay, so those are some people. And then there are those who are on the other extreme. There's not a radical dualism between us and God, but rather it's all one. There is a kind of oneness which we may not perceive, but due to this oneness, why would you worship in particular Govardhan? Because you can worship anything, anyone, any place or person or whatever you like, you can worship. Jata mat tata pat. You can, or you can not worship, and that's because it's one. It doesn't make any difference. There are no differences of any sort, and therefore it doesn't matter. You do, you don't do. As Bhaktivinoda Maharaj puts it, the supporters of extreme monism claim that an eggplant is not less worthy of being worshipped than a sacred tulasi plant, that any pond is as worshipable as the Ganga, that any rock is not less than a sacred shalagram, that if you worship a beggar on the street, it is the same as worshipping God. So there are these two extremes, or two. There's this we could say there's a polarity. I might suggest he puts it in a bit stronger terms of these extremes, but I think we can all recognize there are people who would not be thoroughly committed to either of these two extremes. And we could say it's to those who are not committed to such extremes that the devotees are eager to give opportunity to open their hearts to the worship of Krishna and all the appropriate recipients of worship related to Krishna. And as Maharaj mentions here, there are souls, we call them Vaishnava generally, they worship Tulasi, they worship Amalaki, they worship banyan trees, they worship cows. I haven't seen any cows yet. Last time we were here, there were a few cows around. They're wandering elsewhere. And I haven't seen monkeys either. Different seasons, they go in different times of eating. They may be here early in the morning. Ah, yes, there's lots of feasts going on. Anyway, yeah, and some people, they will worship this particular place, this particular hill. And why is that? How is that? What is it behind the feeling? What is the feeling that makes it possible to make such worship, to, as we have done, present ourselves? What is that? Well, one way it's expressed is that such persons' eyes have been smeared with the ointment of prema, of love. prema anjana churita bhaktivilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. They see in their hearts hridayeshu vilokayanti. Actually, they cause to be seen. What is seen? It's not really what, it's who. Right? Yang Shama Sundaram Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Premanjana. So Prema Anjana Churita Bhakti Vinodasana. Okay, and here he makes, I think, a very nice point that will be helpful for us. As Satchidananda Swami says, "My dear devotees, would you like to hear?" That's what he says. Dualists, those who see only this radical difference, scornfully call such devotees pantheists and idol worshippers, and they laugh at their love for stones. On the other side, monists, the one only wallas, people would say one, there's only one. Actually, we also say, the Bhagavatam says, Vedanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yat jnanam advayam. Advayam. Not two. Not two-ness. That the Bhagavatam is all about non-duality. Did you hear what that Swami said? But then the second line, what is the second line? Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti, Shabdyate. There's three ways to understand this non-dual reality. Anyway, going on, he says, monists blame such devotees for sectarian narrow-mindedness, and they mock their sentiments. They make fun of them. And then Bhaktivinoda Maharaj says, so what? Those who want to love God adopt the same spirit of one-pointed determination as the dualists, and the same mood of utter humility and meekness, a necessary attitude for them to overcome the gulf of separating a tiny soul from God Almighty. So dualists have something right. What is that? They have a certain determination. I'm gonna jump over this gap. As Søren Kierkegaard said, he didn't exactly say it, but the leap of faith. I have this leap of faith. I don't know where I'm going to land, but I will leap, I will jump across to the other side. And I will do this because I have faith that on the other side, the Lord is there. So, and the dualist has another plus, and that is some humility. A sense that, I'm so small, I'm so fallen, I'm so in a rather quite desperate situation. So it's only reasonable to be humble. And of course we have this built into our core teaching. Trinadapi sanichena tadoriva sahishana amanina manadena kirtaniya sada. Yes, you want to chant Hare Krishna? Yes, but just for 5 minutes. Thank you very much. No, I want to chant always, sada. Oh, you want to chant always, Lord Chaitanya says. Well, if you want to chant always, it's possible. Kirtaniya. It is, the name Hari is chantable. Can be chanted under 4 conditions. There's conditions. Yeah, there's conditions. What are those conditions? Trinad. Trina means grass. And trinat api, even more than grass. Sunichena, low, low, low. Bow down, mister. Trinadapi sunichena tador iva, or api. In our Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the last chapter, where the Shikshastika prayers are given, this verse is, it says tador iva, like a tree. I don't know if, I kind of prefer this version, because to me, to be tolerant like a tree, that's already a lot of tolerance. To be more tolerant than a tree, I don't know what that is. More tolerant, how to be more tolerant. I'll just try to be tolerant like a tree. Tador iva sahishnuna. And then amanina, not expecting man to be honored, and mana, giving of mana to others, respecting others, not expecting for myself, expecting myself to give respect to others. That's our little formula of humility, which facilitates, which makes possible kirtaniya sada hari. So we might want to make this verse, we had a lot of discussion about it in Puri. We might want to make this verse a kind of special, have a special position in our memory in the course of this retreat. It's a good, we say in English, rule of thumb. So how we want to, what sort of attitude we want to have. It's especially useful on It's especially useful on parikrama, because all sorts of things can happen on parikrama that we may not expect, and we may be normally we might be disturbed by it, but we're not disturbed because we're in the shelter of Giriraj. We are remembering Trinadapi Sanichena Tadoriva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadina Kirtaniya Sada. Now, Bhaktivigyan Maharaj he waxes poetic. You know this expression? The moon, it's now waning. These are kind of old English words, I guess. There's waxing, which means the moon is getting fuller, and there's waning, which is getting less. But to wax poetic is to just kind of cut loose from all restraint and just get very musical, lyrical with words. So he says, I didn't finish. So the devotees are humble and determined like the dualists, but they also combine this attitude with the contemplative calmness which comes from an intuitive feeling of their eternal closeness to the absolute truth. So this is kind of resonating with the non-dualist understanding. So there's a contemplative calmness. So you can be determined, humble, and we can be contemplatively peaceful. How does that sound? Sounds good? Don't get too peaceful now. Don't go to sleep. An intuitive feeling comes from an intuitive feeling of their eternal closeness to the absolute truth. That's how a tearful prayer full of devotion blends with the tranquility and calmness of meditation and transforms into a sweet kirtan. And then he describes further about this kirtan. This is where he waxes poetic. Do you want to hear how he waxes poetic?
Yes.
Yes. The waves of this kirtan rise above the pasturing fields of Vraja, scale up the small rocky hill known as Govardhan that is stretched out as the tilak marking of Vraja, and ascend high into the sky, trying to reach its snowy peaks and steep slopes hidden in the clouds, where some say the horses of the sun god are pasturing. Some say, and it goes further, the ambrosial sound of that kirtan sounds of that kirtan rise to the very top of Giriraj, from where a small cowherd boy with a staff, a bamboo flute, and a horn is proudly observing his domain. Who could that cowherd boy be? I'll give you 3 guesses. He is the king of this boundless land of love, where every blade of grass is known to him. From the top of the hill, he's watching over the cows that graze in the meadow below. They are ready to forget their grass and come running if he calls them. He sees peacocks dancing just for him. Did you hear the peacocks this night?
Yes.
Who was being a peacock? That was you? Want to try again?
No. Can't, but everybody's watching.
The deer craving for the sound of his flute. On the same meadow, he sees his faithful friends with Balaram ahead. They roll around in emerald green grass, chase birds, and giggle while searching for their friend who escaped from them. His watchful sight traces Mother Yashoda in Nandagram. She is fussing around the stove, preparing his dinner, while a countless number of maidservants help her. he suddenly sees a flock of young cowherd girls on the other side of the hill. Stealthily, they are glancing around while going to the place of their sacred meeting. Chandravali's bashful beauty shines among them. He sees all this, and his heart halts, filled with love and happiness. It goes further, but this is describing kirtan, which is rising up. It's rising up to the top of Giriraj, Govardhan, where Krishna is standing, observing all of this. So now, what I would suggest is we can have some kirtan where we can have this meditation and have Jai Jagannath. Would you like to lead a little meditative kirtan?